Okay, so welcome back, and now we're going to talk about multiplication of whole numbers. So what is multiplication? Really simply put, multiplication is just a very fast way of adding numbers, okay? So I would just call it fast adding, okay? So why is it fast adding? Because in multiplication, you're adding the same number over and over and over again a certain number of times. For example, if you're watching a game and one team scores 5 touchdowns and you want to know what the score is, well, you can take the fact that each touchdown is worth 6 points, right? Not including the extra point, okay? So 6 points, and if you want to know how many points total that they scored based on that, well, you could say, okay, well, I have 5 touchdowns. You could write it as an addition problem. So 5 touchdowns, so that's 6 points each. So then it would be 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. And then add up the sixes. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, right? And so you got a total of 30 points. Or you can use multiplication, which is a fast way of adding the sixes. Because you look at the 5 groups, right? You have points, right? So you have 30 points, right? All of these points, right? If we were to visualize these points as just dots, right? So you have all these points sitting there, right? And you can count them, right? Or if you can think of it as groups of points, right? You've got 5 groups of points. How many points are a touchdown? Well, you've got 6, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you've got this group, right? And then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? And then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? And you've got these 5 groups. Each group contains 6 points, right? Right? And so you can add each group together, or you could say, okay, well, since each group has 6 points in them, well, why can't I just say, okay, 5 groups of 6, or 5 times 6. Let me write it this way. Because in multiplication, that's what we're doing, is we're dealing with groups, right? Because we can easily think of groups in our head. It's easy to talk about groups. So 5 groups of 6 would be 30. And so that's where multiplication comes in. 5 times 6. 5 groups of 6. So, or 6 groups of 5. Same thing. But in this case, since we're dealing with touchdowns, it makes sense that 5 touchdowns would give us 5 groups of 6 points each. Okay? And so that's the idea behind multiplication. Okay? So now, one of the other things too is, again, and I alluded to this a moment ago, is that we can write this as 6 times 5. Both of these will equal 30. And you can prove it to yourself. Because I can either have 5 groups where 6 points are in each group, or I can have 6 groups with 5 in each group. Either way, when I add them up, I get 30. So what do we call this? We call this the commutative property. So multiplication is what we call commutative. So what does commutative mean? It means that I can move numbers around. Commute. Think of commute. Commute means to move. Okay? So how do you commute to work, right? So do you take the bus? Do you drive? Do you take the train? Commute. So the commutative property means that, hey, order does not matter. The order in which I multiply numbers doesn't matter. Okay? Now, also keep in mind that multiplication is a binary operation again. So you can only multiply two numbers at a time. Okay? Just incidentally, keep that in mind. Okay? But commutative property, the commutative property works or is valid, not valid, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word, but the commutative property works for multiplication. Okay? So again, with multiplication, it doesn't matter the order that you multiply numbers. You'll get the same answer either way. Okay, so what else? Okay, hold on, sorry. Okay, so now one last thing before I wrap it up. So the last thing I want to talk about is, just like with addition and subtraction, it is very important to know your basic multiplication table. You should be able to know your multiplication facts through 13, okay? So you should be able to know what 1 times 1 is, 1 times 2, all the way through 13 times 13, which is 169. You should be able to know those multiplication facts. That will make, when we get to 2-digit multiplication, a lot easier to deal with, okay? Again, doing mental math and working in the trades where you're going to be doing calculations, it's easy to be able to do things on the fly if you have your basic, your basic facts memorized, okay? And there's this big idea or this movement or this thinking nowadays that memorizing is bad. That is absolutely hogwash, okay? Memorizing things is a necessity. Think about your own name. So memorizing things is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It makes things easier, okay? If you memorize things that are important facts. Now I'm not talking about trivia, like how many rows of whiskers does a cat have, those sorts of things. It's 4, by the way. Okay, or what's the speed of light in meters per second, 299792458, okay, meters per second. So, but again, that's things that you might know, but again, important for the trades. Definitely want to know your multiplication facts. It's going to come in handy, as you'll see. Okay? Until then, I'll see you next time.